Good afternoon and welcome to the March Human Resources webinar. I am Willis Young of Human Resources. If you are joining us for the first time, the purpose of the webinars are to keep schools and departments informed about human resources activities and allow for questions. The schedule of webinars will take place live on the first Friday of each month with a repeat the following Monday. Since January, the Monday webinar will be held at 3:30 p.m. We will record the webinars for on-demand viewing as well. Additional resources can be found on the agendas and links to all supporting documents and can be found on the Human Resources webinars page on the CMS intranet. The agenda for today is as follows. Planning templates will be presented by TJ Meggett, sourcing and onboarding updates by Carrie Sexton, BTSP, mentoring and licensure updates presented by Tony Smith, and My Talent and Evaluations updates by Ellen Dillard. As a reminder, for audio participants will remain on mute throughout the presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the questions box on the right side of your screen in the GoToWebinar tool. We have subject matter experts who will be monitoring questions. So please don't be shy about asking questions. We will try to answer questions during the webinar, but if we get a number of them, we will answer them offline or at the end of the webinar. So welcome to the March 2015 HR webinar. We hope you find this to be helpful and convenient for you. First up, we have TJ Meggett, who will provide an update on planning templates.
Good afternoon. I'm TJ Meggett, and I'll be covering the 2015-16 planning templates. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of properly completing the 2015-16 planning templates. There are many benefits of the planning template. For one, they accurately identify vacancies for the ensuing school year. They provide the opportunity to redeploy licensed staff. You're able to identify exchanges for the ensuing school year, and this process jumpstarts the hiring season in CMS. There are some preliminary steps that you should take before you begin completing your planning templates. You should ensure that you have compared both your 2014-15 and 2015-16 allotments, and you have determined your losses and gains. You should ensure that you have determined classes and course offerings for the 2015-16 school year. You will compile a list of your end-of-year employees. They will not be considered in your staffing plan at this time. End-of-year employees will be counted as vacancies. You should have already received this list from your HR team leader. Title I schools will determine Title I positions based on 75% of their 2014-15 budgets. The first tab is the school information tab, and this tab is self-explanatory. You would just complete all the information and it will populate to the remaining sheets. While you're planning for your ADM allotments, which is tab 2, you will place ADM teacher allotments on this tab. Only your ADM teacher allotments will actually go on this tab. You will group ADMs based on their licensure areas. This tab will be completed slightly differently for elementary, middle, high school, and K-8 schools. Please note the following examples. For elementary schools, the only thing you need to do is put your number of K-5 teachers that you will need for next year on the planning template. As you can see here from the example, there are 25 K-5 teachers for the 2015-16 school year. For middle schools, you will break up all of your allotted positions based on licensure area. And I do understand that oftentimes in middle schools, you may have one teacher who may teach one section of ELA and one section of social studies. And as you can see there, these items are allotted for in the notes or the additional comments area. So if you would take the moment to look at the middle school sample, it's pretty much self-explanatory as well. And finally, this is the high school sample plan. And of course, the way ADMs are allotted, you will break up each area based on licensure area as the example shows. Tab 3 is where you will place your overstaffed areas. After determining staff needs for the ensuing school year and comparing the 2014-15 allotments to the 2015-16 allotments, principals will list all overstaffed categories. Areas should be listed by licensure areas. Please provide notes in the notes column when applicable. Do not list any staff members. Gray areas will be completed by HR. It's very important that you understand how to identify an overstaffed areas. Areas are overstaffed when there are employees occupying the position. And I have two examples here for you. For example, if your 2014-15 ESL allotment is 2 and your 2015-16 ESL allotment is 1.5, there are 2 continuing ESL teachers. The overstaffed area is 0.5 ESL. Another example, if your 2014-15 ESL allotment is 2 and your 15-16 ESL allotment is 1.5, there is only 1 ESL teacher and 1 vacancy. There is not an overstaffed ESL 0.5 position. Remember, end-of-year teachers are counted as vacancies. Therefore, do not consider them when listing overstaffed areas. And here's an example of various overstaffed areas. If you look at the example sheet, for example, 2 preschool teachers, that may be overstaffed, maybe because of a program move, or 1 German. It could be a program change. Just an example of some additional comments you may add. Tab 4, if you have teachers who will be teaching different subject areas, this is where you would place those teachers. You'll place ADM teachers who are being redeployed into other ADM subject areas on this tab. Middle and high schools will place teachers who will be teaching different subject areas. Example, a social studies teacher who may be moving to PE, or a middle grade science teacher who may be moving to middle grade math. ADM teachers can only be redeployed into other allotted positions if they are currently licensed in HQ in that area. For example, if you have pre-K moving to K-5 or middle grade science to ECGC, you may redeploy them. However, principals must check with HR team leader first for approval before submitting the planning template. And here's an example of the planning template for teachers who will be teaching different subject areas. Position exchanges. This is tab 5. Only current vacancies can be used for exchanges. All exchanges will be listed on this tab to include instructional and non-instructional. Schools cannot displace to exchange, and I want to repeat that. Schools cannot displace personnel to create a position exchange. Do not submit exchanges for approval until your HR team leader has approved your planning template. And here's an example for position exchanges. The last tab is tab 6, and this tab will only be completed by Title I schools. Title I schools can only plan for 75% of their 2014-15 budget. If current staff members will be funded, include the names of those staff members. If staff members are moving from ADM allotments, please place this comment in the notes area of the spreadsheet. The average cost of positions must be verified through the Title I office before submitting the planning template. And here's your example for Title I schools. Please ensure that you communicate with your HR team leader if there are any questions regarding staffing and or completing the template. A correctly submitted template will provide smoother and more efficient processing of your staffing plan. Your HR team leader may contact you to discuss your plans and to revise your staffing rosters. Are there any questions at this time?
At this time, there are no questions.
Thank you, TJ. I know we are presenting a lot of material in this webinar, but I want to remind you that all presentation documents will be available on the HR Webinars page of the CMS intranet. Next up, Carrie Sexton will provide an update from the sourcing and onboarding team.
Good afternoon. My name is Carrie Sexton and I will be presenting on behalf of the Sourcing and Onboarding team. First, I'm going to go over today's agenda. First, I will share recruiting strategies for high-impact schools, which are our Title I schools. Then I will tell you how to prepare for our upcoming career fair and how to maximize the experience for your school. Next, I will share what you can expect from sourcing and onboarding in the next month's webinar. Lastly, I will open the floor to answer any questions you might have. Okay, we're going to go ahead and begin. Sourcing for high-impact schools. Before we discuss recruiting strategies, let me define high-impact schools. Our high-impact schools are our Title I schools. Within these schools, the opportunity exists to make an impact on the lives of students within high-poverty socioeconomic neighborhoods throughout our district. It is critical that we reduce staffing vacancies to offer these students the same learning experiences as all other CMS students. One of the first things you should consider doing, if you have not already done so, is to develop your school's marketing plan. Within your plan, you may include things like your mission goals, branding, and measurements for success. The benefits of having a marketing plan will help determine if your tactics are effective or need adjustments. Creating and posting school-specific flyers, advertisements, and business cards is also a key sourcing approach. High-performing teachers and even parents can be used to distribute these materials. They can also be distributed at networking events or posted on your school website and social media. Another strategy is to cultivate relationships with local colleges. Use student teachers as a resource to build a connection with their college or university. These individuals can help you sell your school to future student teachers. There are multiple social media outlets available. However, we encourage you to leverage the outlets most frequently used by our district communications department, which include Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. On the slide, you can see some examples of some tweets that other companies and schools have used to help build their networks. A hashtag, which is the pound symbol, is used to identify categories. Individuals who search on words after the hashtag or use the same hashtag will see your tweets, giving your school more exposure. This is what makes your tweet effective. We also encourage you to use the @ symbol to tag or share your tweet with another Twitter user. You may tag @jobs@CMS when posting open positions to your Twitter account, and we will retweet or repost your tweet to the CMS Jobs Twitter page. On Facebook, we encourage you to build your network. Partner with the CMS Communications Department to determine your school's Facebook page. Frequently post relevant information, such as open positions and school events. Become an advocate for your school by sharing school posts on your personal Facebook page. We strongly recommend that principals assign the school social media task to an administrator or a high-performing teacher at their location. For the remainder of our time, let's focus on upcoming instructional career fair to be held on April 25th at the Park Expo and Conference Center on Briar Creek Road. The fair begins promptly at 9 a.m. However, we strongly recommend you arrive by 8 a.m. to set up your table. There will be limited free parking for CMS staff at nearby Chantilly Montessori. Discounted parking will be offered by the park. As a reminder, we expect at least 2,000 candidates to attend. This is an opportunity for your school to meet with as many as 100 prospective educators. Therefore, you should consider the amount of time you spend with each individual candidate. To maximize your time, consider developing lines based on subject area. Establish lines for candidates with degrees in high-need subject areas and have prepared questions for them. Develop separate lines for all other subject areas with general sourcing questions for those candidates. You may refer to the effective hiring toolkit located on the intranet for examples of questions. We encourage each school to bring 2 school-based staff members to the fair. However, if you bring 1 to 2 additional staff members, we encourage you to use teachers as floaters who walk around encouraging candidates to visit your table. Bring school flyers, banners, buttons, etc. to decorate your table and promote school pride. Your staff's attire will depend on the image you desire to promote for your school. School t-shirts or business attire is your choice. Again, your floaters are encouraged to network on your behalf throughout the entire event. Interview and assess of candidates is important. However, due to volume, speed, interviews are recommended. This is an opportunity for you to make recommendations on the spot if you find great candidates. Our HR staff will be on site to help you close the deal. If you meet outstanding candidates you would like to hire but currently do not have an open position for them, we encourage you to develop a candidate pipeline and keep the candidates warm. Appoint an AP or dynamic teacher, preferably one serving as a mentor, to lead this effort. Create a mailing list for these candidates using the resumes they provide. Send invitations for private school tours or updates to keep them in the loop on school events. You could also have students to write a personal letter to the candidate sharing why they would love to have the candidate work at their school. These are just a few examples of the many ways to keep candidates warm and increase your candidate pipeline. For more information on sourcing for high-impact schools or the upcoming career fair, you are welcome to contact any member of the sourcing and onboarding team. Our phone number is 980-343-1848, and our team members are listed on your screen.
Thank you, Carrie. Again, a reminder that all presentation documents will be available on the HR webinars page of the CMS intranet. Next, Tony Smith will discuss the Beginning Teacher Support Program and provide an update from the licensure department.
Good afternoon. My name is Tony Smith, and I am the Beginning Teacher Support Program Coordinator housed in the Licensure Department. At this time, we want to start off with the updates for the Licensure Department. The non-renewal process. Non-renewal due to licensure deficiencies. In March, licensure will begin the reviews for non-renewal due to licensure deficiencies. We will no longer consider good faith for employment contract considerations. Individuals who do not hold a license that expires after June 30, 2015 will be recommended for non-renewal of their employment contract. Individuals who may be impacted in the non-renewal process will have a licensure deficiency code of D, E, F, O, which are third-year beginning teachers, P, Q, T, U, W, or X. All third-year beginning teachers must satisfactorily complete the Beginning Teacher Support Program and achieve ratings of proficient or higher on the end-of-the-year summative or evaluation. For employees with career status that have a licensure deficiency, the district will have no choice but to move forward with the process of dismissal. If an individual is non-renewed or dismissed for licensure issues, the individual will be able to reapply in the future if they obtain a continuing license. Impacted employees will begin receiving licensure deficiency notices via emails every 2 weeks. Letters will be distributed on March 11th, March 25th, April 8th, April 22nd, and May 6th. Principals and supervisors will receive a copy of letters. Questions can be directed to your assigned licensure case manager or the licensure department at 980-343-1908. Non-renewal notices will be delivered to affected employees by May 12, 2015. For licensure updates, please visit the licensure page on the intranet. The state has made some policy changes regarding testing, especially with elementary education and exception to children licensure, which can impact hiring eligibility. Contact your licensure case manager if you have questions. Now we're going to continue on with the Beginning Teacher Support Program. We'd like to remind everyone that effective January 1, we did change the requirements for flex certificates. All trained mentors did receive an email outlining this information. But we do want to go on the next slide, which talks about the mentor responsibilities, and those responsibilities are the mentors must complete the required mentor training. They must sign the PDP 3 times yearly, the initial, mid-year, and final. They must meet regularly to support the beginning teacher and complete the mentoring log. And the mentor will also be responsible for assisting the beginning teacher with completing all required trainings and orientations along with the self-assessment. Mentors will not observe their beginning teachers on a formal basis. We'd like to remind principals about our lateral entry process. Any new teacher who is hired as a lateral entry teacher must complete the 10-day required in-service per NCDPI prior to going in the classroom to teach. During this 10-day in-service training, the lateral entry teacher will receive the North Carolina Teacher Evaluation Process training, and they will receive the BTSP orientation. It is still the responsibility of the principal to do the annual orientation with the teacher at the school site and lock that date into My Talent. As of today, all of our beginning teachers should have been assigned a mentor. They should have completed the initial and the mid-year PDP, and it should be signed by the beginning teacher, mentor, and principal. The annual orientation should be logged in My Talent. Should have proof that they have completed the North Carolina Teacher Evaluation Process and the BTSP orientation, and they should have been observed at least twice on a formal basis, and the peer observation should have been completed by December. And as I said, the PDP should be completed for up to at least up to mid-year. The compliance data report, the last report was pulled on February 5th. We are still looking at those schools, at each school, to make sure they are in compliance with the PDPs, observations, trainings, and orientation. Each mentor contact should have already received a copy of this report and should have assisted with trying to get those teachers that are out of compliance into compliance. I'd like to remind principals that any teacher who has worked at least 120 days and they are resigning prior to the end of the school year, they must have the summative completed as well as the PDP. They must have completed the evaluation process for this year, because this year will count as an academic year or a year of employment. The cutoff date for the following schools are for Jordan Hills and Thomasboro. The 120th day will work through January 30th. For Middle College, that would be February 4th. Bronze Avenue and Walter G. Byers, that date would be February 6th. And for your traditional calendar schools, the 120th day cutoff would be February 23rd. At this time, we want to just briefly highlight, just touch base a little bit on the converting process in reference to going from a standard professional 1 to a standard professional 2. Principals, you're reminded that all third-year teachers must be rated proficient or higher on their summatives in order to be recommended for the standard professional 2. All principals will receive this document, and you will be required to fill out the document stating whether you are against or in favor of the beginning third-year teacher receiving the standard professional 2 based on the appropriate documentation. Out-of-state licensed third-year teachers must complete the North Carolina testing requirement or have the appropriate ratings of proficient or higher on the form called the Verification of Ability to Impact Student Learning. That form will be completed by the principal. Additional information will be coming out soon about this process. We are still using the compliance spreadsheet. Those spreadsheets will be going out again within the next week or two to the mentor contacts to let you know where your school stands, and we ask that the mentor contacts continue to support us by helping to bring the teachers into compliance. Mentor logs. The mentor logs, who has access? There are only 2 employees that have rights, well, should have access to the mentor logs. Those 2 people will be the mentor and the mentee. We have received numerous reports about other people being able to access that information. We are doing an audit, an in-house audit, and those rights are being removed, and people are receiving emails. The administrative team should not, under any circumstances, view or be able to view the mentor logs. Only the mentor should be assigned administrative rights to the teacher mentoring logs on the My Staff tab. Any staff member serving as an evaluator is not eligible to be assigned as a mentor. Administrative rights to mentoring logs are being audited, as I said, by our Human Resources Department. If there are any questions, please contact Dr. Angela Belfield or myself, Tony Smith, questions. We would like to remind you that we do have additional resources out there available for you. Those resources are under the talent management. We are using the evaluation timeline to keep up with the documentation that all beginning teachers are supposed to have for requirement of the BTSP program. Also, we're going to continue to monitor, and we'll be monitoring all year long, making sure that all the requirements are in place for beginning teachers and that they are in compliance, and we will be contacting each and all schools that are out of compliance. How do I contact the licensure team? The general contact information, the number is 980-343-1908, and listed below are the members of the licensure team email, and you may contact them via email. That is the end of the licensure updates and beginning teacher support program portion. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Tony. Next, Ellen Dillard will provide an update on My Talent and evaluations.
Good afternoon. Today we will cover non-exempt evaluations, a new look for required fields, changes to locking activities, accessing summary evaluation forms, the impacts of summative ratings, professional learning connections, and reminders for evaluation deadlines. Just a reminder that non-exempt evaluations are available and ready to be used in My Talent. This is primarily a reminder for departments with large numbers of non-exempt employees so that they can get started early on their evaluations and not experience the crunch trying to get them done that I know has occurred in previous years. And also a reminder that professional development plans are not required this year for non-exempt employees, but will be in 2015-16. Also a reminder that there is a new 5-point rating scale that will be new for these employees this year, and that rating scale should be reviewed prior to the evaluation. The new look for required fields in My Talent, you will begin to no longer see the red text that has reminded us all year when there was a required field. The vendor recently made this change and converted any field that is required to an asterisk. So anywhere you see an asterisk in the system is a required field. No more red text. Changes to locking activities, and this pertains to teacher and licensed support staff with NESIS type evaluation plans. So the vendor has made an upgrade to the locking activities step. In the past, it has been a 2-step process where the evaluator had to go in and acknowledge the step to get a green check, and then go back in and click on locking activities to actually lock the steps. The acknowledgement part of the step will no longer be required with this upgrade that we expect to be rolled out any day now. We will put a message in the announcement section on the home page in My Talent to let you know once it is active. But to lock activities once that upgrade has been rolled out, evaluators will simply click on the locking activities step, and then there will be a pop-up box where you will verify that you are in fact ready to lock the container. If all required activities have been completed, this one action will result in a green check and a locked container. So what happens to all the containers that have already been locked prior to this change? No further action is needed if containers were previously acknowledged and locked, or if the containers were previously locked but not acknowledged, because the signature portion of that was not really the step that locked the container. No further action is needed if containers were previously acknowledged but not locked, and yet all the required steps were completed. The vendor will be able to go back into the system and retroactively lock containers where all the required steps were completed and there is a signature there. However, for containers that were previously acknowledged and not locked, and there were required steps that were not completed, then the evaluator will need to go back into those containers and complete the required steps and then lock the container. So why does this matter? It really matters because you're going to need to access the summary evaluation forms or the PDP end-of-year review, and you will not be able to until the required number of observations for the plan that the staff member is on and the prior PDP review containers are all locked. So, accessing summary evaluation forms for teacher plans, any teacher on a probationary plan must have observation containers 1, 2, and 3 locked. For teachers on a career abbreviated plan, observations 1 and 2 must be locked. And for teachers on a career full plan, observations 1, 2, and 3 must be locked. For licensed support staff on a NESIS type of evaluation, all 3 observation containers 1, 2, and 3 must be locked. Remember that there is no abbreviated process for licensed support staff on a NESIS type plan. The only exception to this is for speech-language pathologists who only need 1 observation that must be locked. So what are the impacts of summary evaluation ratings? Tony already mentioned that third-year teachers who are eligible for their SP2 licenses and have a code IL30 must have all proficient or higher ratings to be eligible for that SP2 license. That is a state requirement. So if any third-year teacher who is eligible for that SP2 license has a rating that is lower than proficient, it will result in a non-renewal recommendation because the teacher will be ineligible for that continuing SP2 license. For other teachers who have ratings below the minimum performance expectations, they will be recommended for non-renewal. So it is really important that all evaluators at your location be reminded what the minimum performance expectations are. And you see a screenshot here of what they are. They are posted on the talent management page on the intranet. And please remind all evaluators at your location that anyone rated below the minimum performance expectations will be included as a recommendation for non-renewal. There is a new feature in the that you will begin to see if you haven't already in observations and summatives, where there will be connections made between courses in the professional learning section of My Talent that pertain to standards or elements in evaluations. So where we do have those connections, evaluators will begin to notice light bulb icons where you can click on that light bulb to see what professional learning activities are currently available that pertain to the specific standard and element that you're working on. You will be able to recommend those courses to that particular employee to support the employee's growth and improvement. Reminders of evaluation deadlines that are coming up. We did extend the Observation 3 deadline to March 16th due to those snow ice days that we recently missed. So that is Observation 3 for any teachers on a probationary or career full evaluation plan, and also licensed support staff on a NESIS plan. March 26 for middle college schools only, informal observation number 2 for teachers on a career abbreviated plan. Then on April 2nd, the end of year review is due for principals or APs at risk of non-renewal. On April 16th, the summary evaluation for principals or APs at risk of non-renewal is due. And also on April 16th for all schools on a traditional calendar, or April 23rd for Project Lift schools, continuous learning schools, the summative and end-of-year PDP review for teachers and licensed support staff at risk of non-renewal are due, and these dates are critically important to enable human resources to prepare notification letters and to review all of those cases prior to the letter delivery date, which will begin on May 7th. So we ask your cooperation in making every effort to adhere to those dates. Again, if you need help with My Talent, there are online help guides on a tab in My Talent. If you're having technical issues, please submit a Sharewell ticket. If you need support for the PDP or evaluation process, you can email Talent Management at CMS. Or if you need assistance with the Professional Learning tab, please email kate.mcnally at CMS. This is the Talent Management team. These are the members, and we are all ready and willing to help you with whatever issues you may be experiencing. You may email us individually. You may email our team at talentmanagement@CMS. And then our phone number is there, 343-1907. Are there any questions?
We have one question. The question is, how does the vendor locking the observations impact deadlines? I thought we were supposed to wait 10 days to lock to allow for teachers to submit a formally written response.
The vendor will only be locking previously locked containers. They will not be locking containers that are currently in progress. Also, Tony is holding up a note for me to remind you that the deadline for SP2 license recommendations is April 16th. Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellen, and thank you for participating in our webinar. As a reminder, here are some important dates to remember. There are several evaluation dates and BTSP deadlines coming up. All of these dates can be found on the Talent Management page of the CMS intranet in the Documents section. Sourcing and Onboarding will be hosting the Spring Career Fair on Saturday, April 25th, 2015. We will be offering these webinars on the first Friday and the following Monday of each month. Supporting documents for this and all future webinars can be found on the HR webinars page of the CMS intranet. Finally, please let us know about any future topics you would like us to discuss. You will get a follow-up survey, and we encourage you to provide webinar topics there. Right now, we will stay on the webinar for a few minutes to answer any additional questions you might have. That concludes our webinar for today. Thank you for joining.